Hello everybody, this is Bitcoin Macro, and I've got a very cool video for you guys because I'm just going to touch on many different scaling solutions of Ethereum, or actually on Ethereum, or related to Ethereum, because there is a bit of controversy related to some of them, whether some of them are actually their own chains or they are scaling solutions on Ethereum. There is a bit of a debate. I'm not going to go through all of them, or at least I'm not going to go in depth for all of them, because I do want to analyze the price, mostly because I do believe there is a lot of interesting price action. So I'm just going to go through the data initially, then touch on each one a little bit, not too much, just briefly mention a few things that I want to let you guys know, and then we're going to go into the price action, because I do believe there are several cool things out there that I would like to show you guys. So first of all, I'm just going to talk about the value locked on Ethereum scaling solutions by type. So first one, Plasma, then we've got Validium, then we've got zkrollups, then we've got optimistic rollups, and then we've got state channels. They're all different scaling solutions. I'm not going to say which one is better or worse, but currently the one that is winning is Plasma. But there are a lot of talks about zkrollups and optimistic rollups, or there are a lot of things being built with those types of solutions. Now, the other thing I want to let you guys know is that I don't really consider Ethereum Layer 1 bridges as, actually scaling solutions for Ethereum. They're just EVM compatible. They are compatible with Ethereum solutions. Maybe some of them, they can be seen at least as temporary alleviations to the fee pressure, because some people are using those instead of using Ethereum. So it's up to you how you want to consider them. And the main reason that I say this is because there is a lot of talk about whether Polygon proof of stake is actually another chain, or if it's actually a scaling solution for Ethereum. Now, that's up to you. In my opinion, it's not exactly a scaling solution. Maybe you can consider Polygon Plasma the scaling solution for Ethereum, but not actually the proof of stake chain of Polygon. And I'm going to talk about this later on. Same goes for Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, xdai, Ronin, and some other solutions that I don't know which ones they are. So next up, we've got the Plasma solutions. Polygon Plasma is essentially the most adopted solution right now, which has been eating from some of the other solutions, and that's why we've seen such a rally, because it's the very clear winner currently. But the main thing that you guys need to know is that for now, at least, until we see a proper uptick on the fees and the trading and the movements of coin on those platforms, maybe those coins are not really worth as much, because currently, yes, there will be adoption. Yes, there will be people moving on Matic. Yes, at some point there will be a lot of fees. But remember that in the short term, that's getting a little bit of a bubble. At least that's what this kind of price action reminds me. So there might be a bit of a correction before this one goes higher. Of course, this doesn't mean I'm bearish on the technology or anything like it, but the price doesn't really follow fundamentals all the time. Sometimes, we get a bit overextended and then to the upside, and then overextended to the downside, because again, markets get irrational on both ways. Now, the Validium solutions, these are actually more like decentralized exchanges like zkSwap and Diversify. We've also got some optimistic rollup stuff with synthetix, which is, again, it's a derivatives platform. It's essentially a synthetix derivative trading layer 2 solution. And we've also got Fuel. I don't know much about it. Then we've got the Ethereum zkrollups. Loopring is the largest one. Then we've got some other smaller ones. But Hermez is the only other one that I'm going to talk about, because it has a token, and I do believe it would be nice to talk about its price action, because it's a little bit of a gem. I don't know how big it could get, but it's definitely worth talking about, because maybe zkrollups do actually get adopted, although for now Plasma and other layer 1 solutions seem to be handling traffic pretty well. We can also see that OMG Omisego hasn't been doing very well. It hasn't really gotten the adoption that many people had expected. Its market cap doesn't really show this, because its market cap is pretty large, but maybe it is because it's one of the older projects out there and one of the ones that could potentially see pretty strong adoption. Now, for Polygon, the main thing that I would say is that there is the POS chain, and then we've got Plasma. So we've got MATIC, POS chain, and then we've got MATIC Plasma, and then zkrollups are coming, optimistic rollups are coming as well. So again, I'm not gonna say whether it is a bridge to Ethereum or actually it is a layer 2 protocol, because there is a bit of a difference there. But as far as I know, it's more like a sidechain rather than a proper layer 2 solution. Now, you might say, what's the difference? Because both are good. But when you have staking, guys, and you have people actually voting to have validators, and you essentially have a bit of a different network. Okay, now, for example, on the Lightning Network in Bitcoin, you don't really have people voting and like having delegators and then having people who hold the coins, because it's like you have some custodians and all that stuff. And that's why it's very different. It reminds me a little bit more of Liquid, but with its own token. Whereas this one is very, very different from Liquid in the sense that it's its own chain, it uses different technology, and overall, I would just say that the ones that don't really have the technology that's very different from Ethereum and they are properly EVM compatible, they can do very, very well. Now, it's very hard for me to say which one is going to win or what is best, because I'm not an expert on that. But overall, I would prefer stuff that are EVM compatible and they are very, very easy to use both on-chain and off-chain. So getting onboarded on those solutions means that you essentially don't really leave the protocol and it's all done in smart contracts in the same platform rather than having to use other custodians and all that stuff. Of course, that's not about Polygon itself, but just some overall some stuff that I wanted to just let you guys know. Then we've got Skale, which is about 500 million, okay, of market cap, and it was also listed along with MATIC, but it's much smaller than MATIC, because MATIC has gone up to 15 billion dollars in market cap. Its total value locked is more than 9 billion. The last time I made a video about MATIC, it was a lot smaller. The same goes for the total value locked. Now the market cap has grown a lot more than the total value locked, but I don't really believe that's a problem, because again, when you look at other stuff, you don't even see having like a value locked on them or anything special. Okay, so most of them, they don't really have the adoption. They are not exactly layer 2 solutions. Again, some people call them that, and that's why I want to talk about them, at least because they have tradable tokens that are on Coinbase, they are on big exchanges, or at least the 5 top ones that I'm going to talk about them. They all have their tokens listed on those exchanges. Now, Polygon was one of the fairly more recent listings on Coinbase, same with Skale, but MATIC had a much better performance than Skale. However, the fact that Skale is so much smaller than MATIC, it tells me that there could be some money flowing into this protocol and out of Polygon because of the big difference in the price. Because remember, guys, in here we also want to make money, and markets don't really care so much about fundamentals. Yes, fundamentals matter, but sometimes we might see a bit of a divergence. So yes, even those protocols that don't do well, they might get a little bit of adoption. Now, Skale again is just another proof of stake network essentially. It also says it on the website, so it's not just me saying it. They actually do say that. It's just a different consensus mechanism that is actually managed by the people that have the tokens, and it is close to Ethereum. It is essentially like Ethereum. People can do stuff and connect their dApps on Skale, which is much faster, but again, it's not a proper layer 2 solution for Ethereum, and that's why it wasn't even mentioned in here. But because it was listed along with MATIC on Coinbase, I wanted to just mention that stuff along with it. Now, the next one is OMG, which is another plasma solution which hasn't gained any traction at all, but its market cap is about 1 billion, which doesn't really make that much sense in my opinion. However, because it could grow a lot more because of its cool name, because it's one of the older projects out there, because it has been underperforming for so long, again, maybe people just look at this one and say, I want to diversify a little bit and take some money of the best performing layer 2 solution and put some of it on one of the less well performing solutions, because who knows. And the main thing that I would tell you guys is that they've introduced OMG X, which is a different type of scaling solution. Okay, I think as far as I know, they are just like the prototype. They're gonna have a testnet, at least they just launched a testnet, and it has to do with something about rollups. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it definitely would be a big step because OMG is a pretty old solution. It's one of the biggest ones right now in terms of price. As far as I remember, it changed hands, at least the company behind them has changed hands, so maybe this one does a little bit better than the previous one. But it's definitely a proper layer 2 solution for Ethereum, and it's not a proof of stake chain. So again, they're going to do some stuff with rollups like they say here as well, and Plasma, and potentially OMGX is going to be the one with the rollups, but I don't really know that much about it, so I'll let you guys find those details yourself. But the other thing that I would say is that this is listed on many exchanges, and that's what matters to me the most. Okay, yes, of course, other stuff matter, but when it comes to people buying certain things like OMG or Skale, the access really matters. Skale is a more recent one, so it might do a little bit better because its chart is better, and I'm going to talk about these things later on as well. It's also a little bit cheaper. But OMG potentially could be one of those that have a pretty explosive action fairly soon. Next up, we've got Loopring, which is an Ethereum Layer 2 scaling solution. This is a proper Layer 2 solution, although it doesn't just do, it's not just a Layer 2 solution because it allows for building high throughput, low cost, non-custodial automatic market makers, order book exchanges, and payment applications on Ethereum by leveraging zero knowledge proofs. So that you can do a lot of stuff, mainly for trading. It's very cool. It's been one of the earliest ones that got a pretty decent adoption. I think it started getting adopted before Matic, as far as I remember. There is an exchange for Loopring as well, and it's using zkrollups, which is a fairly nice scaling solution in my opinion, at least from what I've heard other people say. Potentially one of the top ones because it's using zero knowledge proofs. Now we've also got synthetix, which is a derivatives liquidity protocol. That's a very different thing, but because it's using some fairly cool layer 2 technology, I do want to mention it, and also I want to mention it because of its price action. And finally, we've got xdai, which is a little bit of a gem. Potentially it might do well because I like its price. I don't have really much stuff to say because it hasn't been adopted as much. A few people started building on it, but then a lot of them actually left and went on Matic, which is a little sad for them. But because it has a total value locked twice as large as its market cap, maybe there is hope for them. And it also got a fairly new recent listing on Huobi, which could be very beneficial for them. Hermez network, also a cool one that has been fairly new, and its price action seems like it could potentially have a pretty explosive move to the upside because it has been trending sideways. It's pretty small, so it's a little bit of a gem. And finally, we've got zk, which had a very explosive move in Q1, but then it really started fading. We even saw it hit a lot of people on it. There was a lot of total value locked in that protocol. It reached about 1.5 billion or more, but then a lot of it just left. So initially it was one of those essentially decentralized exchanges that got a lot of adoption, but then it just faded away. So let's get into the price action. Let's just get straight into it, because Matic has had this very explosive move, and I spoke about Matic several times before in more than 2 different occasions. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm just going to share the videos down below because I actually spoke about it when it was about to break out, and its performance has been very good, especially given the fact that we've had that very large correction on Bitcoin and in the crypto markets in general. Now, I would never suggest to anyone to just go and rush and buy anything right now. In my opinion, if you're bullish on Matic, I would just tell you guys, wait for a little pullback, just wait for a correction, just see how things go and then step in. I would never recommend to anyone to buy something that maybe since 3 weeks ago, it's up almost 7 to 8x. Let's see how much it is. It's about 600%, which is about 7x, which is fairly large. Okay, so I would just never suggest you to go and buy it, even though it has incredible prospects for the future. So again, you can watch the previous video, guys. I'm not gonna mention other stuff on it, except a little bit on the BTC price action, because in Bitcoin terms, it has performed even better, because Bitcoin has been going down while MATIC has been going up almost at 10x. So if you bought MATIC after the listing on Coinbase and the sideways action from here, you would have made a nice 10x. But after such a big move up, in my opinion, it is time to take at least some profits. Again, no investment advice. So next one, guys, I'm just gonna look at Skale, because in my opinion, it has a chart that looks very, very explosive. It could have a very, very nice pump. And the reason is that it does remind me a little bit of MATIC, not exactly, because it had a very big pump right after the Coinbase listing, because it hadn't pumped as much as Polygon. It was going sideways a little bit in this price action. It was just grinding higher rather than having a big move up like MATIC had. But because it has retested those previous highs and it broke that nice double top and it has been consolidating like this price action here does tell me that it could have a very, very nice big move up pretty quickly. Now let's look at the USD chart. Of course, the BTC charts look a lot better, guys, and that's why I prefer them, because right now with the current correction, I don't really want to say too much about the USD charts. They look a little bit messy. They don't look as clean as the Bitcoin charts. And I hope finally some of you guys can understand why I do recommend to trade versus Bitcoin at times. Sometimes when you get big corrections like this, sometimes you don't really want to get shaken out of your coins. Maybe you want to make a little bit more money without having to worry about your performance, because this correction has been mostly about Bitcoin rather than any of those tokens themselves. Of course, the fact that all these coins had gone up so much has played a bit of a role, but in my opinion, it's just Bitcoin having a lot of issues and the market is going for altcoins right now. So even this one, it looks fairly good. Now it might be a little bit slower, but once it starts breaking above this diagonal, it could just fly. Again, not the perfect chart in USD terms, but in BTC terms, it looks very, very clean. Same as MATIC, like I had mentioned on the previous videos as well. So OMG BTC, this one, it had a very, very explosive move, guys, over the summer. And like even early on in the summer, it got listed on Coinbase, it had been listed on Kraken, recently got listed on Bitstamp as well. So it is on pretty much trading on most large exchanges. It had a very big pump and then that very big drop as well. It had a full cycle, so it dropped all the way back down to where it had started its summer alt season, or essentially it started pumping in May. And now it's slowly building another uptrend again. It's not the best chart, maybe it's the lack of adoption, but in my opinion, because it's starting to close above the old resistance support, now this could have a fairly nice move up. So like versus the US dollar, it has been trending up pretty nicely as well. And in my opinion, after retesting those levels right here, so it had a big move from that level. This is also a nice high. So it came all the way back down to this level. So to me, this could just resume its uptrend pretty soon. It probably won't take much longer, because I do feel like, at least to an extent, this could have a nice move up, because it doesn't really have that much resistance from here and upwards. Again, remember, this is mostly a correction due to Bitcoin and not really that much because of altcoins really correcting to the downside. Now LRC, Loopring, this is also looking very, very nice. It's looking very explosive in my opinion. And the reason is that it got listed on Coinbase at the end of the alt season, so it had that final explosive move up and then it fell down, but it has been having those really sharp pumps compared to other coins which have been trending a little bit more steadily. So we also see it here as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we just get another really big move up now that layer 2 solutions are pretty hot, especially for a coin that is listed on Coinbase and it's still below $1, because those ones, guys, they do seem cheap for new entrants to the market, so it might do pretty well. It's also very cheap if we just have a look at where it was at the height of the 2018 bull market, and in my opinion it's starting to form a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern. It does remind me a little bit of Ethereum before it broke higher, because for now we do have this as a little bit of a resistance right there, but once that breaks, to me this is looking like shoulder, head, the massive capitulation and the accumulation, and the other shoulder. So shoulder, head, shoulder. Of course, it's inverse head and shoulders. I shouldn't be calling it head and shoulders because it's inverse, but you get my point, because it's slowly climbing above the same place that it was trading about 4 years ago, and it's slowly coming up and up and up. And then once that starts going higher and potentially could get even some adoption, then this could mean that this protocol could really fly. So then briefly, I'm gonna touch a little bit on synthetix, SNX, synthetix network. This has been going up very strongly recently. It hadn't done very well at the beginning of the bull market because it had a pump, then it quickly faded, really corrected all the way back down. It wasn't really moving, but now it has been going up very strongly, and in my opinion it's one of the cleanest ones, and the reason is that it retested those highs, that all-time high, the previous all-time high. It was one of the best performing tokens even during the bear market, because it started pumping way before many other coins started bottoming. It went up very nicely and currently has a double top in Bitcoin terms. Potentially could form a little bit of a triple top right there, but once it starts breaking above it, it could really go up very nicely. So with the USD terms, we can see that it's also doing very well. It's pretty much close to its all-time high. So although we've been in a very steep correction, it's one of those coins that is very close to its previous all-time highs, and it could potentially break them fairly soon. Now, I would definitely love to buy a pullback down to $22. So I'm not gonna suggest that you guys rush and buy right now while something is pumping. So xdai stake versus Bitcoin. It has been having that strange capitulation. The Coin Paprika one doesn't really show the full picture. Maybe if I try stake for this one, xdai stake on CoinMarkup, xdai, yes, perfect. Because this one had also had a very big sharp pump towards the end of the summer bull market. Then it just had a very steep correction, and up until now it has been going sideways. But those coins that have been going sideways, maybe they do have some more upside, because this one got listed on Huobi, and I don't really believe that Huobi would list something that they didn't plan to pump, or they thought it would not pump. So it's just something to keep in mind. If there wasn't interest for that coin, potentially I wouldn't mention it. They probably wouldn't list it either, and that's why, in my opinion, I do believe they do see something. Maybe even Binance starts listing it, because it's one of those that, compared to its market cap, the total value locked is pretty high. So of course I could see this go up fairly nicely, and especially because it has that interesting double top right here, or triple top. So if it starts going higher from here and it starts breaking those highs, it could literally just fly much higher. And maybe some people start experimenting with other solutions because they hear about Matic, they know about the fees. So maybe some people want to diversify and be on several chains rather than be, on several different layer 2 solutions rather than be on one only, which is Matic, because it's just a little bit more risky. So Hermes network, it's looking pretty okay in Bitcoin terms because it hasn't really dumped much versus Bitcoin. I don't really like the way it fell all the way down here, especially after the bull market had already started. But the fact that it's holding pretty well above those highs, it does tell me that maybe something is brewing. Maybe something is brewing, guys, because here as well, it's still on an uptrend. It's still looking okay. It hasn't done very well. has been one of the worst performers, especially when it comes to layer 2 solutions, but I like the fact that it's still on an uptrend. It did correct that interesting move up. Again, maybe some people want to use this one. I've seen Bitfinex mention it. They said that they would use it to exchange tethers. They would transfer tethers as well on top of that network. So maybe if some other people start using it as well, it could do pretty well. Again, it's just a gem, it's pretty cheap, so I wouldn't really put that much on it. And finally, ZK Swap. This one had a very big pump, guys, so whenever you see a chart like this, just run away. Doesn't matter how good the project is, and that's why I would never suggest to anyone to run and buy anything that's very expensive, that has pumped too much, because usually these projects just turn down like this. So maybe MATIC is the one that sort of escapes that fate, maybe, especially because it had that very nice accumulation range versus Bitcoin. So it's very different from the rest, because it was going sideways versus Bitcoin for so long, and it broke that interesting triple top right there and then consolidated above those highs, whereas other coins haven't really done that. But still, when something goes up so much, just don't invest, guys. Just don't rush in, don't ape in onto something that has pumped about 10x versus Bitcoin over the last few months. So that's it from me, guys. Please remember to like, subscribe and share this video. Please click the bell icon as well. You can also follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on TradingView, you can follow me on Telegram as well. You can join the decentralized chain Telegram channel, where you can ask us questions or give us any feedback, but you can also use the comment section to do that. Any feedback is welcome. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little longer, so that's why I'm just gonna give you the timestamps. I'm gonna split it into different sections for those that want to hear each segment separately. I want to cover a bit of everything, so I do know that it was probably a bit too long, so you can just focus on the main ones. But that's it from me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next one.